In this lesson, we'll begin rigging the mech's weapons. So it's time to rig the guns that have been integrated into the mech's forearms. Now here's the challenge. We need to figure out how to rig the guns in a way where they will telescope out naturally at this angle. As of right now, if we were to grab one of our gun pieces and then grab the move tool, just to take a look at its orientation, you could see that it is not ideal. You could see that the Z is forward, Y is up, X is over to the side instead of pointed down the weapon. Now let me show you a trick for getting around this. What we'll do is go ahead and jump into wireframe mode. We'll press the 4 key. So what we'll do is basically connect a joint chain at either end of the weapon, and by doing so we'll figure out the angle that way by using the joint's orientation. Cool, right? So let's say we go ahead and get this started. What I'd like to do is actually disconnect the skin on our gun pieces, and we'll then reskin them to a new set of joints. I'll go ahead and press the 6 key so we can jump back to shaded mode, and again we'll go through and select each of our new pieces. From there we will detach the skin. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the right side. I'll go ahead and pause the video and do that step. Wonderful. Alright, so the skin has been detached on both sides. So now, let's go ahead and focus on rigging the left side, because we could always mirror the change that we're about to make over to the opposite side, right? So let's do this. We'll go back to wireframe mode. Now, let's go ahead and grab the inner gun piece. So I'll just go ahead and marquee select. If you're having trouble selecting it, it's probably because of the joint getting in the way. So just go ahead and turn off joint selection on the status bar. You can do the same thing for IK handles by turning off handles at the top, just in case. Alright, so I'll now go in and grab that inner gun piece. I'll go ahead and deselect anything else by holding down Control and dragging. Now, let's go ahead and press F8 to go to component mode. From here, we can select the point that is at the very center of our gun geometry, right here at the very center. With that selected, we can then go to Create Deformers and make a cluster. A cluster is essentially a transform node that we use for components. So it's almost like a joint. A joint, in actuality, is a type of cluster. But this is the rudimentary form of a joint, if you will. Alright, let's go ahead and get back to that same piece, and this time we're going to create a cluster at the very front of the same geometry. So what I'll do is go ahead and select it again. Let's go ahead and press the 6 key. There it is. So with it selected, we should still be in component mode. So I'll go ahead and zoom in, find a nice view, go ahead and select the point, and with it selected, we'll go ahead and create another cluster. Fantastic. Now it looks like the cluster hasn't been made in the right spot. Let me go ahead and undo that back and grab the object again. I might go to wireframe mode. I think that this helps sometimes when trying to figure out what we actually have selected. And then we could do a marquee selection. And there we go. I think we have the point finally selected. Great. Let's go ahead and create a cluster. Fantastic. So you can see it can get a little challenging, but nothing too bad. Just take your time and make sure you're selecting the right point. You could also go to shading and turn on wireframe unshaded to kind of figure out where that point is. Nice. Alright, so once we've managed to do that, now let's go ahead and hide our model. Sweet, so we can now snap to our clusters. Fantastic. If you need to, you could also go in and hide the forearm. So let's say we do this. We'll go ahead and head over to our outliner, and we'll go ahead and grab the forearm bone. We might have to go back to the status bar. Let's go ahead and press F8 to go back to object mode, and we will enable joint selection. Fantastic. So now I'll go ahead and select the forearm, press the F key in the outliner. Once it has been selected, we can now go to our visibility channel and set that to 0. Nice. Now it'll be a lot easier for us to snap a joint chain. We're ready to do that now. Let's go ahead and grab our joint tool. We'll hold down the V key, and we'll snap from one cluster to the next. Take a look at that. We have now found the orientation we need for our gun to scope out naturally. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead and remove those clusters now. So we can go ahead and select both objects and just simply delete them. And then we'll go ahead and take our end joint. Let's go ahead and press Control A so we can jump over to our attribute editor. And then we'll go ahead and make sure its orientation matches its parent, just so visually we can see the angle at which this chain flows. So we'll go to the y-axis, set that to 0. We'll do the same thing for the z-axis. Let's go ahead and set that to 0. Fantastic. So watch this. When we grab our end joint, we grab our move tool, making sure the move tool is set to local mode. Or if we were to just simply go to our channel box and use the Translate X channel, we're now able to move along the gun's angle. How exciting is that? So that will make things far easier for us when it's time to set up driven keys. I'd like to bring the forearm back now. Let's go ahead and select that bone. We'll set the visibility back to 1. Fantastic. Great, so we have this bone in place. I think this would be a good time to stop the lesson. Let's go ahead and finish setting up our joints for the mech's guns in the next lesson.